So my book review I'm doing today is Beloved by Toni Morrison. I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I'll get to that after a quick summary. So this book follows Seta. She's a slave and the protagonist of the book. She wants to escape Sweet Home, the plantation, with her children and her husband Hala, because Hala's mom has a house in Cincinnati called 124, and her name is Baby Suggs. So when the plantation owner finds out about Seta's plan, her kids have already escaped, but school teacher finds Seta and beats her and drinks her milk. And if you didn't know, Seta was pregnant at the time. That's why she had milk. So fortunately, Seta is able to escape, and while she's escaped, she's still pregnant and gets help from a girl named Amy Denver. Amy Denver is able to help Seta to 124, and when Seta gives birth to that girl, she named her Denver in tribute. So the first 28 days, Seta said, are the best days of her life. Then eventually, after those 28 days are up, school teacher finds them, and Seta and her children are hiding in a barn. Seta and school teacher's trying to take them back to the plantation. Seta looks back at all her trauma, and she doesn't want her kids to deal with it, so she kills one of her kids and tries to kill the others, but school teacher stops her, and leaves. So now the house is haunted by that daughter's ghost, causing her two other kids to leave, and then eventually Baby Suggs dies. So it's just Seta and Denver together in the house, and Paul D shows up, who is Hala's brother, and Paul D and Seta kind of rekindle, and Paul D tries to get them back into society. And in the middle of this, Beloved shows up on their doorsteps, and they take Beloved in, and she's obsessed with Seta, which is super weird. She's asking all these personal questions, and Denver sees this, and Denver sort of makes a realization that Beloved is the ghost, the reincarnation of the ghost of 124, the daughter that Seta killed. And Paul D finds out about that Seta had to killed her daughter, and Paul D leaves the house. Once Paul D leaves the house, Seta's becomes under the spell of Beloved. Beloved just has this hold of her, and Seta eventually has this breakdown, which causes her to lose her job, and Denver tries to find a new job and enlists the help of Mr. Bodwick, a white man. Eventually, the community finds out about Beloved, and they want to exorcise her to get rid of her because they believe she's possessed and stuff. And Mr. Bodwick and neighbors go to 124, and Seta sees Mr. Bodwick, a white man, gets flashbacks from school teacher, and tries to kill him. But fortunately, they stopped her from killing him, and Beloved leaves. Once Beloved leaves, she runs away, and she's never found again. And then Paul D is able to join Seta and Denver and live in the house. And that's the summary. I'm gonna get into why I rated it a 4 out of 5. So I rated it. Some things I liked about it were definitely the characters. Characters were super well developed throughout the whole entire story, and you can see how they changed and grew throughout the book. So one character, which is a perfect example of this, is Beloved. I thought Beloved's introduction was super weird, and I thought her whole character was gonna be a waste, but I had a moment when I had that sudden realization that, oh my God, Beloved is the reincarnation of the ghost, and that, she's here, she's a very important role. And, this whole thing with Beloved all made sense, how she showed up on the doorsteps, how she's obsessed with Seta. That whole entire development of Beloved was amazing, and for me, that's what made me rate the book so high. A passage I chose to show off the characters was page 25, and this when Paul D slept with Seta. So, not a tree, as she said, maybe shaped like one, but nothing like any tree he knew, because trees were inviting, things you could trust and be near, talk to if you wanted to, as he frequently did way back when he took the midday meal in the fields of Sweet Home. So, when you think of a tree, like Paul D said, you think of an inviting, something warm, like summer, basically, something, that you're not afraid of. But Paul D sees Seta's back, and Setha's back sort of shows what Setha has gone through, especially during her time at Sweet Home, and the way she described it was not accurate at all. Her back is sort of scary and monstrous, or like a monster almost, and it's like a reflection of what Setha has had to go through her whole entire life. So another reason why I rated it so high was Morrison's ability to foreshadow. So it's just incredible. Like, I mean, when you're reading like the beginning and the middle, a lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, you're wondering like, how is this connected? How is this related? You know, why is this even here? But then towards the ending, you can slowly see everything coming all together, and sometimes you have to reread passages to think like, oh, you know, I remember that. That's how this happened. You know, so a great example, and I think the best example of her ability to foreshadow is actually the when Setha kills her daughter, her eldest daughter. And I think this is amazing because just the first two sentences of the book alone tells you all you need to know. So she says, the first two sentences, 124 was spiteful, full of a baby's venom. So when I first read the book, I was like, you know, I went over it like, you know, oh, you know, a baby might have died. It just flew over my head. But then as, you know, you go on, I realized, you know, about Setha killing her daughter. And then I go back to this first page, and it was here all along. This foreshadowing was here all along. And I think it was just an incredible job by Morrison, and her ability to connect the little pieces of evidence throughout the book is just amazing. So I rated it a 4 out of 5, and that 4 is because I felt like Morrison's style of writing, a lot of the time I felt like she had different ideas that she would stitch next to each other, and for me it didn't make sense most of the time. You know, I feel like her transitions didn't flow well with each other, and you know, she'd write about this experience, this story on one side, and then you'd flip to the next page and be completely different, something else, and it's almost like you'd have to forget about that previous experience and just read about this new one. So I didn't really like that because I felt like it required a lot more, like, you know, you'd have to reread it multiple times to kind of, you know, get the gist of what she was writing about. So a prime example is on page 133. So this chapter is just talking about Holly's experience in a chain gang, basically what he had to go through after he, you know, tried to kill someone. So his experience in the chain gang, and then eventually his escape, and his return to 124. So that's what that chapter talked about, you know. And then I flipped to the next page, 134, and I'm just going to read you what it said. She moved him, not the way he had beat off the baby's ghost. All bang and shriek with the windows smashed and jelly jars rolled in a heap, but she moved him nonetheless, and Paulie didn't know how to stop it because it looked like he was moving himself. Imperceptibly, downright reasonably, he was moving out of 124. So I had to reread that passage because I wasn't sure how to kind of consume the idea that, you know, I just read about Hala and the Chain Gang. Now I'm reading about Beloved using supernatural forces to move Paul D out of 124. Like, Morrison's style of writing can be perplexing at sometimes. When she stitches her different ideas next to each other, I feel like it doesn't fit right with each other, and that's why I give it a 4. Yeah, so that was my book review. Please, Mr. Campbell, please give me an A+.